blurring the lines between real life and Second Life. Bringing you in-depth information about the people behind the avatars. Giving you insight like you've never heard before. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fourth Wall with Paul and BK.
Hello everybody, I am the scumbag superstar Paul Slater, and we are back for another edition of the Fourth Wall. I'm here with my podcast partner BK and his lovely partner C. And BK, we're getting a lot of cool feedback on the Baza episode, but today's episode, I don't know, today's episode's pretty big too.
Absolutely, and I know that this is one that you actually want to put together yourself. This was one of the first people that you reached out to, or you wanted to reach out to, so I'm going to let you go ahead and you let everybody know who
and not only did I reach out to who I wanted to have on, but also we had a suggestion in our Discord server, and his name popped up quite often in the suggestion, and I'm talking about right now, he is a former world champion, SL Wrestling World Champion. He's currently on the Premier Wrestling Overload show on Thursdays at 1 p.m. SLT. And not only that, but he also has real-life wrestling experience that we're going to talk about. And another big thing, BK, we found out in a little pre-show, Master Christopher Walken impressionist. And I'm talking about none other than Derrick Zane. Derrick, welcome to the Fourth Wall.
You said it wrong, Knuckle Nose. It is the only name you need to know, Derrick Zane. With that aside, thank you. It's an honor and pleasure.
All right. I'm sorry, Derek. I got to do this. Like Paul was saying, before we actually come on the air here, you were doing this Christopher Walken impression.
Yes.
Right now, on the spot, I want you to cut a unscripted promo, Christopher Walken style, on Paul.
Do you want me to do it in the form of Derrick Zane doing Christopher Walken?
Yes. Yes.
Paul, you absolute popcorn fart of a human being. You come here talking about being scumbag. I mean, what's so super about being a scumbag?
I can't even respond.
To me, you're just a scum boy. Coming round in the dithers. Maybe, I don't know, you could maybe pull your head, leave your ass, or I'll stab you with a salad fork.
Oh my God.
Completely buried. I just got buried.
Oh my God, you got buried by Christopher Walken.
See, in my head, it sounds more like, was it Spacey? Yeah, it was Kevin Spacey's impersonation of Walken.
Okay, that's fair enough. All right, well, I give my stomach a chance to recuperate from that. Derek, you know, I said this before when we were doing a little pre-show. You know, the first time I ever come in contact with you or anything even closer resembling working with you was when you come out to do your speech at the end of the last OEW show. Mm. And I know, in all honesty, I know you by name. You're one of the first names I ever heard of getting into SL Wrestling. Your name comes up quite a bit when people talk, you know, in all honesty, the word legend has come up, the word icon has come up, the world, you know, the terms man's man has come up and all that. Now, in the SL world, we get that because it's very tough to maintain the reputation that you have because of all the BS that goes on in real life. But with your real life wrestling, how did what you did out there play into what you do here that you can keep everything and maintain that kind of status and maintain it for so long and never get caught up? You've never been caught up in any bullshit. How do you do that?
Oh, that's not true. I've been caught in a lot of bullshit. Well, as I said before, I like individuals. I like people. I don't like groups. Large groups inevitably will annoy the hell out of me over time. I've had my battles with the community, and I am more than humble enough to say that I probably brought some of that onto myself. I'm only human. Everybody makes mistakes. I'm not going to say that I was innocent in those things that happened, but I like to think that the majority of the bullshit I avoided and was just dropped on me by happenstance. But again, I don't really know what all the sides were thinking at the time, and this was over 10 years ago, So a lot of it has just faded into the mists. But
Okay,
I'm pretty
that's
sure
fair enough.
that the people that I made mad, all right, yeah, now if I made you mad and I did it for a reason, then yeah, all right, that's on me. If I made you mad by just existing, well, go fuck yourself.
Oh, right. I can appreciate that because I've been in that position many a times.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start out with the RL stuff. You mentioned in the pre-show that we were talking that you got started kind of late in life because we hear stories about everybody, some people lying about their age. I started training when I was 16. I started training when I was 17. Then a lot of people, well, I didn't get into it till I was in college or whatever. What age were you and how did you happen to stumble into it?
All right, so this is involved. I was 29. Was it 29, 28? Somewhere around there, somewhere around 28, 29. So at the time, so I'm going to have to tell you a story, then tell you a story, which is going to lead to how this all came about. At the time,
this is your show.
At the time, I was working at a Barnes & Noble, and they had stuck me in the music and movies section, and I was in charge of it. And it was that thing of, we're going to give you responsibilities, but not pay you like a manager, that kind of horseshit. So while I was running the music and movie section, somebody walked up to me and they were looking for a movie about Jesus. So I'm searching through the computer and I came across a movie, and in fact I'm looking over at my collection of DVDs and I can see it right there. It's called Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter. Just that title alone made me go, what the fuck is this? So I looked into it, and it's a weird Canadian musical. If you ever get a chance to find it, watch it. It's fucking supreme. But in the movie, Jesus, who is fighting vampires that can walk during the day, is assisted by a guy pretending to be El Santo. And if you know wrestling, if you know Mexican wrestling or lucha libre, El Santo is a name that you know. Well, it wasn't actually El Santo. It was actually a big fat Canadian with like long hair, when El Santo was a very slim, trim Hispanic gentleman. But there's a line in the movie when El Santo arrives, the press comes out to talk to him. Why are you here in town? And he says, I'm here to help my friend. But remember, friends, if you're going to take my picture, best to get my good side, or you'll get on my bad side. All right? Okay. I tell you that story to tell you this story. Sometime later, my brother and I, brother from another mother, we like to, every New Year's, go on adventure. Because if you're going to die, best to do it in the midst of adventure than, passing out and, dying in your sleep. So we would wander the streets of Los Angeles every New Year's, just looking for adventure. This year, we both show up in town and we're wearing military fatigues. I don't know why, we just did. We had patches from 2010. It was the joint U.S. and Soviet space mission. We're very weird. Just keep that in your head. So we got berets on. He's got a Castro beard. We're wearing military fatigues with strange patches, and we're sitting in Olivera Street. There's this little Mexican place that's right on the corner. If you sit in the little lounge outside, you can look across the intersection and you can see Union Station, the big train station in town. That's where our friends are going to meet us. We got there early to have lunch. While we're sitting there, there's this older couple that keeps looking at us. And I'm thinking, oh boy, what the hell is this? What are they going to think? Because I know they're going to ask. They're going to ask something at some point. And at some point, the lady looks over and says, I don't mean to bother you two, but are you in the military? Because we don't look like military guys. We're way too, chunky. We're big, stocky, kind of fat dudes. And what is this woman going to possibly believe if I tell her? No, we're just weirdos. So I just went, we're professional wrestlers. And my brother Chief kind of just looked at me and went, you're on your own, dude. I'm not helping you with this one. And she went, really? And I was like, all right, well, shit, I'm in it. Fucking just, as the saying goes, if you're going to dance on the ice, might as well tap dance. So, yeah, we are the Petrov brothers. I am Petrovich, he is Yuri. Really? Yes, we are going to San Francisco to have a big wrestling tournament for tag teams. And as she's leaving, she goes, well, that's very interesting. I go, yes, remember, we are the Petrov brothers, Yuri and Petrov. If you're going to take our pictures, best to get our good sides, or else you'll get on our bad sides. Right? Because it was stuck in my head. So a couple of days later, I'm telling that story at Spud Nuts that we would go and hang out at. And the friends are all real. We get a chuckle out of it. And there's this one guy there who I'd never seen before who was listening. And I didn't think much about it at the time. So I tell the story, ha ha ha, we all go about our business. And this guy walks up about 5 minutes later and he goes, "That was a very funny story." I said, "Yeah, it is what it is." He says, "Have you ever thought about getting into wrestling?" I said, "Yeah, years ago, but dude, I'm like in my late 20s, man. I don't even know where to start." He said, "I'll tell you what, here's my number. I'm going to be meeting up with Andre again in the next couple of days. Why don't you come along?" And that's how I met Ostentatious, who introduced me to Andre Verdun, one of the guys that trained me in the business. And that's how I kind of stupidly back-assward stumbled into wrestling.
Wow, that's so basically you were fooling around with somebody overheard it and then said, "Hey man, come and check this out. You're pretty good at it." How long did you go right into it and train, or did you go in and wait a little bit, look around, just get used to it? You just went right in and got into training?
Oh yeah, straight off.
Wow.
Bad Achilles.
Sounds to me like you basically unintentionally cut a promo on a fan and somebody overheard.
Yeah.
Well, the story of me cutting the promo on just a random woman in Oliver Street, yeah. And that's how I got my original gimmick, was Petrov Potemkin, hero of the Soviet Revolution. Because I, like many others, except for one actual person, we're all bullshit Russians. There's only one guy in the business who's actually legitimately born in Russia, raised in Russia, is a Russian. Everybody else, we're not.
Wow.
Volkov, Yugoslavian.
Yeah. He also is from Minnesota too, I think.
No, that's the
Nikita Koloff.
That's called the Koloffs. Nikita is from Minnesota. His uncle is French Canadian. Nobody is actually.
But you know what though? When you were a kid and you were watching it, you really believed they were from Russia.
Oh yeah.
That's the crazy. So how? So when you got into the real life, I mean, we'll get into the second life later. But when you got into real life wrestling, how was the training? Did you start as a wrestler? Did you start as a color commentator, referee? How did you start?
Wrestler, trained to wrestle. And it's thankfully, and like I said, I cannot speak to every experience out there. I was trained very, very well by Andre and Carnage. They were my principal trainers. Then I would learn things from Robbie Phoenix. I would learn things from the stepfather, redheaded stepchild. They were a tag team that was prominent at the time. There were numerous other individuals that helped kind of pour little bits of what they knew into me. Many times you would hear stories about guys getting trained where it would be a horror story of, here, throw up, and then you get stretched for 5 hours, and then they would try to deliberately break a limb to run you off to see if you'd come back. That never happened. I would hear stories about that sort of thing, but by the time I got involved, we're looking late 90s, early 2000s, maybe even mid 2000s. A lot of that stuff, it kind of worked its way out of the system.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it really just came down to, if you were willing to keep coming back, they were willing to train you.
Okay, so as we all know, there are times during a match, during the show, however you guys, during a card, accidents happen. We've seen it before. We saw the whole thing, where Bob Holly, where he had that great big gash that pretty much went all across his back. We've seen what happened with Shawn Michaels, with the highlight reel when he got put into that TV and he didn't block himself right.
Yeah.
Is it, now I understand, there are just accidents and stuff that, there's nothing you can do about it. There's absolutely nothing you can do. But is it true that when you are training, they don't teach you how to pull punches till later because they want you to be prepared that if somebody were to slip and didn't pull it back in time, or somebody was out and you actually took a hit, that it wouldn't shock you? Is that true?
Well, the philosophy that I was taught through Andre was that you need to be able to protect yourself. You may run into somebody who's taking liberties because they either they're just weird, or B, they got an issue they can't resolve with themselves, or C, they just think it makes them look better at somebody else's expense. So being able to take a hit but also give a hit back is important, because you also need to know how to gauge. Depending on where I am in the ring, the way I would throw a punch is if I'm in the ring, I would use the old egg in hand method. If you hold your hand out, you make it look like you're holding an egg in your hand. Ideally, that's what you're hitting with, and you're putting your knuckles to the side of the chin. I'll go ahead and expose like the business. That's fine. Fucking, you can find this information out. I used to be like really wary about it, but now there's so much fucking information already.
Right.
Now, if I'm next to the crowd, then I'm gonna close my fist and I'm gonna hit you in the hairline. I'm gonna hit you as hard as I fucking can because I want that sound to be heard. And most of the boys know that's what's gonna happen. But I'm not gonna hit you in the nose. I'm not gonna hit you in the eye. I'm not gonna hit you in the teeth. I'm gonna hit you in the hairline because that's the hardest part of the skull.
Yeah.
So one of the podcasts that I listen to out here in real life, and I'm 6 feet under, The Undertaker. Sorry, sorry, you can't not listen to The Undertaker. And I've seen many of the shorts.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. But I've seen many of the shorts, and I've watched a lot of the different episodes. And one of the things that he keeps getting asked about is receipts. Now, I understand what it is, and anybody that's in wrestling and what they understand what the But let me ask you this: how many times did you, or I'm not saying what was the biggest receipt you ever had to give back?
That I ever had to give back?
Yeah, like somebody did something, and you might not have done it right away, but later on you got your receipt. What was the biggest receipt that you ever had to repay? Wasn't
anything that was done to me. Carnage once had me go and pop a guy, like I remember the story very well. He said, during the match, you're going to go into the corner. When you're in the corner, I want you to just hit him really fucking hard, like twice. I said, really? He said, yeah. I said, okay. I'm a pretty big guy. The joke I always made was that I'm the littlest big man of Southern California. Like a guy who could bench press 300 pounds, but I'm under 6 foot. So it's like very weird. Like a crash pad.
Okay. Got it.
But I put him in the corner and just wham! And I remember him looking at me and goes, what did I do? Kind of shrugged and went, man, Carnage said to hit you twice. He said, okay. Then apparently it's because he was wearing a shirt that they didn't like. I don't know. There was something like political.
So you were the messenger.
Essentially. Like, for the most part, my mentality was always, look, we're here to entertain. We're here to make a little bit of money. I'm not looking to hurt nobody. I'm hoping nobody's looking to hurt me. Let's just do this, have fun, and fucking go home at the end of the day.
It seems like a lot of that happened like back in the 80s and 90s. Like it seemed like now, like especially like what BK just said about listening to a lot of podcasts. Like you hear a lot of stories of like guys that are wrestling today and they talk about their beginnings, and it seems like kind of like what you're saying. It's like, hey, if you showed up, they're going to train you. There wasn't no messages being sent. There wasn't really things about how tough you were. Like, we're going to break his arm. We're going to break his leg, see if he comes back. Now it's like a lot of that stuff seems like it happened. If you listen to like Stone Cold talk and The Undertaker and all them guys, it all happened in like the 80s and 90s, like when they trained people.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question. How many, like, what was the biggest name in wrestling that you were ever in the ring with?
Oh. Well, I wasn't in the ring, but I was on a show with him.
On a show, yeah, that's fine too.
It was Mil Mascaras. We did a lucha show. We did a lucha show in Oxnard, Oxnard, California. And yeah, Mil Mascaras. Somebody paid for Mil Mascaras to show up. He didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I think he kind of maybe drop kissed somebody once, and that was it. That's all anybody needed. They saw Mil Mascaras.
I saw. Yeah, it was a draw.
I got to shake his hand. So fucking A.
So now this question right here. Now this, I'm going to put a little bit of the SL into this because this one is going to be one of those ones you're going to have to get two different answers.
Mm.
Being that you're a real life trained wrestler, and being the fact that you're the icon in SL that you are. And trust me, you are. You can
that offends my.
Well, you can be offended all you want to. I'm not politically correct. Okay. No.
It offends my imposter syndrome. I don't like it. No.
Anyway. In real life,
yeah.
What do you feel was like your best match that you ever had? And then what was a storyline that you had? And if you heard any of our other podcasts, you heard what's the storyline that you had with someone that it ended the way that you wanted it to at the time, but you wish you could have picked it back up and expanded?
Okay, so for Second Life.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, probably the most fun I had in a match. To be fair, I've been having a lot of fun recently since I came back, and I just haven't been trying to focus on doing management stuff, so it's hard to say. Let's see, before I just got fed up with the community and left for 7 years, I would say that very first thing we did with OEW and DCWF, where I worked a match with Drewski, that was fun. Put him over.
Oh, okay. So now were you Drewski's first match, or was or were you breaking at the same time?
Drewski was already around. I had already been established in the thing. OEW decided to do a thing. We were trying to reach out to other promotions, and DCWF was one of the few that would actually reach out and work with us. Mm-hmm. So we did kind of like a joint card, and the agreement I made with Numbers at the time was if we let one of our young guys go over on one of their guys, I'd let Drewski beat me in a match, because I was the big name for OEW, which didn't bother me, which kind of shocked Numbers at the time. He's like, really? You lose it? I don't give a fuck, dude.
That's real. That's something that you should do, and we'll go ahead and let you, but you can put this in there as well. You just said that you put somebody in SL over that nobody asked you to. And then you hear the stories in RL about, we want you to put this guy over, or I refuse to put this guy over, and this and that. So now all this can just blend in together, where you're talking about your first match, the most fun you had, the storyline. Now you can go and just add all that in there. Put in there about who you would or wouldn't, or never did put over.
Who did I not ever put over?
No, we're talking both. No, we're talking both. We're talking RL and SL.
Oh, real life. I don't think there's anybody would really know. Because by the time I was working with Jimmy, I was already doing color commentary, so I never really got a chance to work with Homeless Jimmy.
Homeless Jimmy? Is that what you said?
Yeah. You know Homeless?
Okay. Heard the name here and there, kind of like whispers, but he was never one that was just, It
looks like, so the world I come from, because Andre, okay, so if you know your 90s to early 2000s backyard wrestling, you know who Andre Verdun is.
Yes.
He was the guy that was featured on, was it Nightline? One of those.
Was it? He was also on the Dateline or something, wasn't it?
Dateline, that was the one.
Okay.
So he was the one that they were doing the old expose on backyard wrestling for. Well, he eventually got trained. So the world I come from is the world of hardcore wrestling. I myself didn't do a lot of it. I've done some. It's very weird. Probably, okay, so I can't tell you everything, but I can tell you what it feels like to be inside of a body bag and then the body bag being set on fire.
Oh. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And it's like the longest 3 seconds you'll ever have, because you are very acutely aware that you're now on fire.
Oof.
And so your thought is, if that extinguisher don't work, I need to roll as hard as I fucking can to put this thing out. And
be a bad time to find out the extinguisher was fucked up.
Well, the signal would be the referee pushing me to roll over.
Okay.
That would be the key.
Still sucks to find out just then.
Probably the most fun real life match I ever had was with Rojo. Yeah, El Gato Rojo. He was a lucha kid. Mostly because we were able to play off of each other pretty well.
So you've mentioned here a couple of times, the lucha style wrestlers and the wrestling style, but you yourself, you're not a lucha, right?
No.
But you do. But do you have experience with it, or do you prefer that it's two different styles clashing to make a great match?
Well, to answer that, you really need to understand the dynamic of the Southern California scene.
Okay.
Unlike, I'm assuming you are all on the East Coast.
Yes.
Well, actually, I'm in Tennessee, but my real life. Yeah, but my real life, before we got married, she was living out in California, not too far from LA, as a matter of fact. So.
Okay. So when you're looking at the wrestling scene in the East Coast or east of the Mississippi, it's dense. You can throw a rock and you'll probably hit like 4 or 5 promotions hither and dither. In the West Coast, it's pretty much a bunch of, like, not really a bunch, but like a good handful of indie promotions around San Diego. You go north, it's a shit pot full of them in LA. You leave LA, you come north. I think Senkel might still be operating. Yeah, unless it went under. There's like 3 or 4 throughout the Central Coast. Then it gets a little more dense again once you get up near San Francisco. You leave San Francisco, it gets sparse again. Then you get up to Oregon, and there's a handful around Portland. And then you get north of that into Washington, and then it gets sparse again. And then there's like a couple up in Vancouver. So it's really spread out. You go east, there's a couple in Vegas, 1 or 2 in Arizona, and then I think 1 in New Mexico, and then 1 in Colorado. And then nothing until you get a little bit past the Plain States, and then it starts to pick up again. So it's not that you want to work with Lucha guys or don't want to work with Lucha guys. You are working with Lucha guys because that's who's there. And they're working with, like, the American trained guys that are there as well. So you work with who you got. So you eventually you pick it up.
Okay, but you pick it up as you're, like, in the ring with them, right? It's not like, I mean, I'm sure you do some rehearsing outside, so you kind of get an idea, but you really don't learn it.
It's not that hard, right? Yeah, no, it's not that hard, because when you really think about it, I'm not working Technicos. I'm working, Rudos, because I'm a big American. And it's weirdly the lucha style, it was designed that way, was that the little, like, masked Mexican wrestler would be technical, whereas the big, lumbering, strong American would just throw them around. And that's where you get the term, Rudos and Technicos. Technicos, technical, Rudos, rude. Or just, like, mean.
I never knew that.
Oh, yeah, that I've never heard that before. I guess that's a business term.
It's like how we talk about faces and heels.
Okay.
For them, it's Technicos, Rudos, Exoticos. Okay,
so if you're a heel, you're Rudos because they associate the mentality with being rude. So if you're a heel, you're Rudos.
Kind of. Like I said, it's way more involved. There's also a lot of, like, geopolitical things going on between the U.S. and Mexico. Like, you really gotta, like, immerse yourself into it to fully understand it. But yeah, most Americans end up working Rudos because they're bigger. Really, it's not so much like who's bad, who's good. It's who's little, who's big.
Oh, okay.
It's interesting.
Okay.
And then there's other differences, like you in lucha you work the other arm. So in American wrestling, you work the left arm. So anytime you're wrist locked, your left arm is the one that's worked. In lucha, you're working the right arm.
Now, you just said that, and I'm not going to lie to you. Until you just said that, it didn't even dawn on me that happened. Is that one of those things that it's an industry standard, or is it a preference? Because, like me, if I personally were a wrestler, because I am ambidextrous, but I'm left-hand dominant, I would need it to be my right arm so that I could use more of my left hand. Is it a preference, or can you switch it up, or is it just like, no, you deal with it?
It's a cultural thing more than anything else, but yeah, anybody who's working both sides, they figure it out. You work it out pretty quick. You discuss it before the match, and then you just work it out. If you do it long enough, it becomes second nature.
Oh, okay.
So let me. Let's. You got something, BK?
No. Go ahead.
All right. So let's get back. Let's get into Second Life a little bit. How did you find about hear about Second Life wrestling and get involved in that?
I kind of addressed it at the OEW show, but I'll go over it again.
Yeah. So, a lot of people weren't here for that.
So I had been doing stuff in Second Life for a while, but nothing really ever stuck. I just kind of pop in, look around, and leave. And I think one day, I'd already been working, like, wrestling for at least 5 years at that point, maybe longer. I was just bored. Just got on the Second Life and looked around. I wonder if there's any wrestling. So I typed in pro wrestling, and 3 names came up. It wasn't even VWE yet. It was pre-VWE. DCWF and something else. I can't remember who it was. I know it was Cine used to run it. So I went to each of them. The first one I went to was Cine's. Nobody was there. So then I went to the VWE one, pre-VWE, and I watched it. I watched a show, and I realized, oh, okay, it's the business. They're just doing it with the HUD. Interesting. Or at least I assumed it was a HUD. I didn't know quite yet exactly how it was done. But I could tell it wasn't like, pose ball. Because people were moving around freely, they're doing things. I thought, okay, so they're doing the business. Interesting. So I remember I was there, and somebody said, are you interested? I said, yeah, because they were sending me IMs. And I said, well, you should leave them. You should leave an application, but I know that at the moment they're not hiring. I said, okay, well, that's cool. I'll leave. I'll drop one off anyways. Then I went to the DCWF show and watched them and confirmed that, yeah, it's like the business. They're working matches. It's a thing. And I left an application with DCWF, and they never got back to me. So, as somebody had explained what the ACPWS was, the Alpine Chris Pro Wrestling System, that had just been essentially released to the public recently before I became aware of it.
That's an old name.
Indeed, I'm old. I'm an old man. Hey, you kids and your robot manservants. So I got a hold of the ACPWS and just started screwing around with it, and eventually figured out how to work it. And I kept waiting to hear from either VWE, well, pre-VWE, or DCWF, and no one ever got back to me. So, I had a buddy, who you all know as Lex Umaga. I knew that he was into wrestling, so I said, hey, check out this thing I found. And I showed him the HUD. And then we would work with each other to figure out how to make it work. And he said, this is really cool. Do you mind if I get a hold of it? Do you mind if I tell my friend who I know through DC Roleplay, David Hawk Actor? And that's how the three of us met. And we figured out how to work the system. And then while we were doing that, Lex said, hey, I've got a friend. She owns a sim. She doesn't really do anything with it. What if we put on a show there? I said, okay, we could probably do that. But let's work through some other promotions so we can get an idea of how it's actually done. And so we worked for a time for Savannah Mohegan's promotion and Cinny's. Neither of them really went anywhere, but we got a general idea of how to run a show. And then we started OEW. And that's how OEW got started. Mostly because it was a place, philosophically on my end at least, it was a place that people could go and not be ignored and given a chance to try and do this.
So you kind of originally started doing the Fed thing because you wanted to do the opposite of what everybody else was doing.
I don't think I was that involved. I think it was just...
Well, no, I'm just saying,
to do this.
Yeah. Now, you said earlier that you were talking about that you'd put the, you'd put the note cards applications in, and then the three of you learned how to use the HUDs. How long after you started and you actually realized how the HUDs work, what was the time frame when somebody finally got in touch with you that you were able to work in your first Fed?
Nobody ever got in touch with us. We ended up going to Savannah because she was looking for people, like actively looking for people.
Oh,
we just showed up. We showed up. Said, I'll have. Was it J Wolf? Yeah, I think it was J Wolf. I'll have J Wolf train you. I said, no good. We already got it.
Wow.
Oh, okay. So yeah, nobody ever got back to us.
So you went to work in the Fed, and J Wolf was there. Wow. Okay.
J Wolf Viper, I think that was his name.
Yeah, something like that.
I want to say J Wolf Viper. That sounds about right.
Yeah, it was something like that.
I just remember him and Savannah were like supposed to be an item. I didn't really care. Second Life relationships, they annoy me mostly because of doing management. Inevitably, I'd get some guy say, "I want my girlfriend to be my valet or manager." Great, I'll come up with a storyline next week. Here's your storyline. Oh, we broke up. God damn it!
Yeah. I've seen that happen a few times.
Yeah, that's happened several times that I've known of. Somebody, yeah. So, okay, so let's jump up a notch here a little bit. You've been in management. You've been in, and you said that you left Second Life. You left the community for 7 years, and now you're back. What was the biggest change for you from the time that you left until you came back and now? What was the biggest thing that you had to overcome? What was the biggest obstacle? What was the biggest culture shock, I should say?
that's an interesting one. Because when I left, I was under the the mindset that I was going to be gone for good. That was it. I was going to leave and never come back. And I had, at a point, become very comfortable with the idea that any potential legacy I had would be forgotten. Like, I was totally just at peace with the idea that nobody would know that Derrick Zane existed in Second Life, that I would be forgotten, and I would have no problems with that at all. So, because LG, Lord Joffrey, would repeatedly keep saying, hey, are you thinking about coming back? And I didn't want to be rude, so I would just give him the standard, I'll think about it answer, which was basically no. But I don't want to tell you no, because I don't want to, hurt you. What caused me to come back was he said the magic word. Charity show. God damn it. If you ever want to motivate me to do something, do it for a cause. So I just agreed to come back to do the one-time thing for the Ukraine relief event. Now, he was originally going to put me in with a battle royale. That didn't happen. So instead, he put me against the Ace. Ace Sharif, if you know who he is.
Yes.
Hell of a good kid. Working with Ace is what convinced me to come back, because I had such it was so weight off the shoulder kind of, oh, this can be fun. This thing that I used to have, churning guts and bile in the back of my throat thinking about having to deal with these people in this community, I didn't have. I had fun. It was light. It was refreshing. He's a very motivated guy to get everything right. I would say he's perhaps a little retentive, but I've said that to him, so he knows. So it's not like I'm talking ill of him. But he's very focused, which is very intense. I'm a little lazy. I like to cheat. I like to gesture out all my moves so I don't have to quick type everything.
Yeah, I hotkey mine.
But it was because of Ace, working with Ace, that it convinced me maybe I should give this another try. Culturally, I can't say. I have very, very, very specifically decided to kind of not get involved in the community at large. I don't know if that's good or bad. I just know that it works for me. I would like to think that the community has improved from when I left. One of the reasons why I left was because it was a big thing at the time to air everybody's grievances on Facebook, which to me was fucking stupid. It's why are we doing this? Why are you showing your ass in front of the greater world? My mentality was always, my annoyance with the community was, if you're going to recreate the business, why are you recreating the worst parts of it?
Yeah, that's true.
Good question.
At least in the real world side of the business, I would get paid to deal with people's bullshit. In Second Life, I'm not getting paid to deal with anybody's bullshit.
So you're doing it that's why it's a hobby, basically. You know what I mean? It's a cool hobby, and you come on here to have fun, have a good time, do some cool stuff, and then you have people who are difficult. I mean, we all dealt with it. You know, I've been in this for 5 years, and I've dealt with it my fair share. I'm sure BK has too.
And that's a fair point to make. I used to be of the mindset that, because people once told me, well, it's just a game. We're role playing. And my argument was always, well, who the fuck wants to come watch other people role play? Well, that was before Critical Role. So my argument completely went out the fucking window there. But
right.
But that was my thought was, you take it serious. You're putting on a show. It's not a role play. You're putting on a show for people to come and watch. And a lot of people didn't agree with that. And I really had to come to grips with the fact that I cannot change the world. The world will not change for me, so stop trying to change it. And that's why I left.
Okay, that's fair.
So culturally, I can't really say if it's changed or not. I haven't really gone out of my way to be involved in the community. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's why I get weird when you say Derrick Zane's a legend. I don't think I am. I'm a guy who does what he does and then leaves.
Well, see, but that's just it. It's
you have a mystique. I'll say real quick, BK. You have a mystique about you, because I remember I guess it was probably right around like when you said you came back and did that charity show. I just got back to OEW, and like Lex and Heather, they're friends of mine who were like probably my better friends on SL, and I remember them bringing your name up. Like, there's this guy's coming. His name's Derrick. He used to be in OEW version 1, and he created it, and blah blah blah. He's coming back. We're talking about coming back, and I didn't really know. I never heard you up until that point. Honestly, like I was probably maybe a year or two in and whatever, but I remember them talking about you like you had real life wrestling experience and this, and if you get him in OEW, you could open it. I remember they were trying to get you pretty hard to come to OEW, if that's true or not.
I felt really bad because they were trying, and it was never going to happen. When I left OEW the second time, because I'd left OEW at one point because of a disagreement I had with Zarina. And then David and Lex had stopped wanting to run it, so they asked me if I would run it, so I did for a short time. And then when I left that time, that was during the bad period where I was just fed up with everybody in the community. And so, in my mind, my involvement with OEW was done at that point. So I was never going to come back to OEW. And I feel very, 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 very bad because I know that Lex and Tiesa had made an offer, had made an overture for me to return, and I had told them, no, I'm not coming back ever. And then like a week later, LG hit me with the, hey, we're doing a charity show. So it felt really like scummy on my part for a while, and I've even talked to the both of them about that, and they say, no, it's okay, we understand.
Yeah, you do what's best for you. I mean,
it's not even that. I still feel bad about that because it felt like I was kind of screwing them over.
Yeah.
And I didn't want it. I didn't want that to be the case because at that time, I was very much still in the mindset of I'm never returning. People can forget who I am, and I'm totally cool with that. Just forget that Derrick Zane was ever a thing. And then a week later, here I am. Oh shit! I guess I am coming back.
Well, see, earlier, just a little bit ago, you were talking about, that I use the word icon and you use the word legend. You said you don't feel that. Now, I'm saying this, man to man, and to be perfectly honest with you, and this goes back to when I started in SL Wrestling, even up to today, because I was out of, I didn't leave as long as you did, but I was, out of it for a while due to oral stuff that, other shows had been mentioned, and it doesn't matter what Fed I've worked in, or it doesn't matter who I've talked to, whether I've ever been in their Fed or not. We always end up in the conversations about, hey, if there was one person you could wrestle, if there was one person you'd been in a storyline with, or if there was one person you wish you could have. And I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. 9 out of 10 times, your name comes up.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's not like they're, oh, well, let me think about it. The first word is like, all I have to do is say Derrick, and I know exactly what they're talking about. So it's like Paul said, there's a mystique about it.
There were other Derricks. I mean, Derrick Colt.
I'll lose you. I mean, I was new to SL Wrestling. I was like, I started in 2020, so this is probably 2022. So I'm still like learning, how this everything is, the people and everything. And when your name first came up, like for Lex and Heather, like when your name first came up, that's all I ever heard was after, like people were talking like, oh man, I love to be in the ring with Derrick Zane. I love to be like once you started back up again, you got active again. Like nobody forgot you,
Absolutely not. But yes, you're absolutely right. Derrick Colt, Big Baby. You're absolutely right about that. But when I was saying that it was like, you have the conversation and it ends up and you have the conversation with 10, 11, 12, 15, 20 people, even have in a room, and the name, Derrick Zane. So you hear Derrick, and it's not any disrespect to Mr. Colt, don't get me wrong, but when you hear, it gets so ingrained that it's your name, and then at one point in time, it did dawn on me. I was like, wait a minute, guys, there's two Derricks. There's the Derrick Colt, and they're like, yes, we know, but no, Derrick Zane, that's who and it's your name comes up, and it's like, and it's not anybody trying to inflate your ego, but apparently somewhere along the lines, even with all the bullshit, all the fuck ups, all the ups, all the downs, all the fuck yous and everything else, somewhere along the lines, you did something absolutely right that even to this day, after you were gone for 7 years, your name is the first name out of somebody's mouth.
Yep.
That means something.
Yeah, you have a huge impact on this community. Whether you don't like them or not, you still have a huge impact on this community.
Oh, it's not that I don't like.
Well, you know what I mean, like the drama with it, everything. Yeah.
I just got to sit here for a moment and kind of sit in that because I'm going to be honest, man. that was my mindset for a very long time. That I just, wow, okay.
Well, I know, well, no, because I can relate to you because that was something Paul and I know. Like I said, we spoke about this before. That after our thing ended in OEW, I was out for a couple of years, and we didn't talk and this, that, and everything else. And I was kind of with the same mindset you were. I'll never go back. It'll never happen. Don't care. I feel like I was screwed over. And then all of a sudden it's like come back and everybody's like, hey, glad you're back and this, that, and not to what you would be brought back to. Don't get me wrong. I'm definitely not in the same category you are. But I can relate to what you're talking about, where you get fed up with it because you get screwed over, or you're just tired of the bullshit, or you're tired of in all honesty, doing a bunch of babysitting instead of doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you're like, screw it, and then, you come back later on, and people are like, yeah, we remember you, we know who you are, yeah, we want to work with you, and that's with you were gone, you had the mindset you wasn't going to come back, and there's probably not a person listening to this right now that's sitting in the on-air channel with us, or nobody's going to listen, that would disagree, that saying being in a match with you would be the pinnacle, be a highlight of their life, and I don't know exactly how well you are at taking compliments, but I mean, that puts you, in all honesty, if there was a Mount Rushmore of SL Wrestling, your face would be up there.
Yeah.
I disagree, but I'll accept that.
Okay, well, that's cool. That's perfectly fine. I mean, like I said, you don't, like we said before, speak your mind. We don't have to agree on everything. You don't have to be politically correct. Just, we're just having a conversation, just, speaking our opinions. And that's my personal opinion. I think there's a lot of people that would agree.
So what BK's really trying to say, Derek, is if you guys ever meet in the ring, he wants you to put him over. What's his receipt?
No, actually, that's an ass kicking that I would proudly take. I would take an ass kicking on that. Okay, so Derek, so let's get back to a little more fun about the wrestling part. SL, the craziest match you ever had.
Okay. Craziest. I don't remember what the name of the promotion was. It was one of those fly-by-night, not great ones. This was the early days of OEW when we were just trying to find people to work with. I agreed to do an appearance for some promotion because they were going to do something for us. And the match I was in was I want to say, elimination chamber thing. I think. It was very weird because nobody would sell. It was one of those matches where somebody gets super kicked, and the moment the person who got super kicked hit the ground, they'd pop back up and then suddenly DDT the guy that super kicked him.
So in other words, a preamble to what they do today on what you see on TV.
Kind of. It was a clusterfuck would be generous. It was bad. It was just bad. It was very, very bad. So I spent the majority of the match just kind of laying underneath the ropes. So I did not want to be involved in this.
Do you ever?
Okay, this is just bad. I'm not involved.
You ever watch Steve and the Male Heels? You ever watch that series? The wrestling series
I'm
with the guy from
aware of
Arrow?
it. I never got a chance to watch.
Okay. The reason why you say that is I'm laughing is there's an episode towards the end of the first season where the guy that comes back, he's one of those, he made it big. Basically I'm the WWE, you're independent. But they had a tying in with the father that owned it, and they were doing this great big huge ladder match, and the veteran, the pro, the TV star, whatever, he had a substance problem. And he ended up shitting himself. During the match. And he was just laying underneath the ropes, and they're like, aren't you going to do something? He goes, nope, I'm laying right here. I shit myself. And you saying that you laid over, and you saying that I just stayed over, basically under the ropes, reminded me of that scene.
It's not that uncommon. It does happen. You just nod and go, all right, I understand, brother. You want to go home?
Yeah,
now?
I've heard, Michael Hayes talked about one of the first matches he had. Something happened, his stomach screwed with him during the match, and he crapped himself, and then he had to. They figured out a way to cover so he could go. And his words were, "I went to the bathroom, blew myself out, come back and finish the match," or something like that. It was
pretty much. Let's see, or another interesting match that we had. Because I would say that one was probably the most clusterfuckery. Probably the most exciting match. Dave Hawk and I, when Zane came back to take on David Hawk with his retirement thing. That one because we worked the community. We did a spat where we were kind of going at each other on social media, and I showed up at one of the shows. Like, nobody knew I was going to show up and started cutting a promo on him, and then he booted me from the sim. Right, so we got everybody to think that it was oh my god, they're legitimately like fucking legit. No, it was work. That was fun.
kind of remind you, Paul, of when we started ours and they were coming to you and asking you if we really hated each other.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: who, since you've been back for what, maybe 2 years now, I guess.
About that, yeah.
So who's somebody on your list of like, I want to get in the ring with this guy?
Hard to say, because remember, I'm not really actively going out and looking at other promotions.
Right. So let's say Premier, Premier Wrestle. Let's say it's just in Premier.
Well, technically, we've already worked together, but we've done it on like specialty one-offs. Is TLC.
Yeah.
And mostly because that kid can go. He understands. Okay, it's one thing to do your moves fast. I've seen lots of people do their moves fast, but there's no rhyme or reason to it. He's got the mindset of, if I'm going to do this, it's being done for a reason, and it's going to flow into this, and this is going to flow into that. A leads to B, leads to C, leads to D. He understands that, and so he's able to make the matches flow beautifully. He and I did a thing for like I think it was like a joint promotion between Overload and Attitude, and we're like, there's no heat, there's no reason. We're both faces. There's no like animosity. What do we do for fun? And then I just made the suggestion, let's do a dance-off. He said, all right, I'm down for it. So we did a dance-off. So that's the mentality that makes it fun to work with. So yeah, I would like, hopefully at some point, should TLC come to Overload or should Derrick Zane go to Attitude, the two of them properly lock horns as God intended.
Well, you should pay attention to Attitude this season. Just saying.
Why would Derrick Zane pay attention to Attitude? There is nothing there that appeals to the greater mind of Zane.
All right, let's do a quick sponsor break right here, and then when we come back, let's see if we got any Q&As for Mr. Zane here. All right, today's episode is brought to you by Aaron's Domain. It is a family-friendly SL-themed server for friends, family, and the SL wrestling community. Members are also welcome. They have all sorts of channels and categories that may pique your interest, and we are currently tied to several other feds in the SL wrestling community. Whether Rain works there or not, we show our support for the family in the best way that we can. If you wish to become a member and join us, feel free to ask Rain, Aaron, or Chrissy, and they will get back to you. Welcome to the Aaron family. The door is always open. And in our and on our channel, when you go down there on YouTube, there's actually a Discord link that's going to be there that you'll be able to get over to that right away. Also brought to you, LPW, 12 p.m. SLT on Sundays. However, they are talking about possibly making a change to 1 p.m. SLT, so please pay attention to their server, pay attention to their X and their Blue Sky accounts for more information. Premier Wrestling, we have Attitude, Mondays, 1 p.m. SLT. AVW, which is All Victory Wrestling, Wednesdays at 4 p.m. SLT, which yours truly is a commentary over there. Overload, Thursdays at 1 p.m. SLT, Unplugged on Saturdays at 1 p.m., and Rise Sundays at 2 p.m. SLT. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's come time. You now actually have the opportunity, if you wish to speak to Mr. Derrick Zane. And the way that we're going to do this, if you have a question, you can say, hey, I have a question. If you voice, we will let you pop in, ask the question, and then please give him time to answer. If you do not wish to, make sure you send a message to Z and she will read it off. So, Z, do we have anybody up that wishes to ask Mr. Zane anything?
I have not gotten any questions so far.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he answered everything.
Well, actually, there is a question. I see it right here. It's in our open mic session. Mad Mike wants to know, Derrick, if you ate your cornbread. I'm just reading it off.
Yeah, I know. That's a nod to D1. See, the joke at the time was that Derrick Colt was D1, I was D2. I think there was another Derrick that had come in at some point later.
Okay.
No, I've not eaten the cornbread because that belongs to the big baby himself, wherever he may be.
Yeah, speaking of, you're talking about Colt and a few other people. Do you ever get in touch with them or stay in touch with them or connect with them outside of SO?
When I cut ties with the community, I cut ties. Even my buddy Ryan Fury, I didn't talk with because Ryan Fury got out, and my mentality was he's got wife and kids. I would rather he be focused on that than this horse shit.
Oh, okay, absolutely.
And I miss
okay.
Ryan. Ryan's a good man, but like I said, he's got 2 kids that his wife brought with him, and then at least one of his own. So he's got his hands full. He needs to be focused on that.
All right, Z, has anybody spoken up yet?
We actually
like
do
Mike
a
has a
couple of
question.
questions that have popped into chat here.
Okay,
Mike would like to know, do you watch other shows, or are you open to watching other shows?
I only, so far since I've returned to Second Life, I've gone to one VWE show, and that was to watch Drewski, because Drewski's a good guy, and I like his stuff. Other than that, I have not gone to watch anybody. Like I said, I suppose I would be willing to go watch others, but I really need to work myself up to it. The events that caused me to leave in the first place were such, like I said, I was not in a great spot, mentally. So, I'm hesitant to potentially do it. We'll see. I'm not going to say no, but I'll have to kind of psych myself up to do it.
Well, I mean, I guess
I don't want to come off as a big downer. Is the thing?
Well, no, that's not it. But okay, let's say for instance, let's just say Paul and I. Let's say that we decided, somewhere down the road that we want to start a small, not to compete with big people. We just want to start a small fed, do a little thing. And one of us said, "Hey, would you mind coming over and checking this out and seeing what we're missing, or see what we need to be added?" Would you do something like that? Would you take an invite, or would you rather just be, "Hey, I'm showing it up on my own"?
Oh yeah, no, sure. I'd be happy to show up and critique. I mean, but people would have to ask. I'm not going to just do it. I'm not going to just show them and go, "You're doing this wrong." Be like, "Okay, here's what I would suggest. Try this, this, and this, or this, and that."
Okay.
But I wouldn't just show up and, say, "Do it like I tell you to do it." That's a little presumptuous.
Drew, we did see your question. Yes, actually, he did touch on that about why he came back to SL Wrestling, and in all honesty, it was at the beginning, more towards the front of the show when we asked him how he got all involved in it. But it has been addressed. Not dismissing your question, but I don't want to make the man repeat it because it'd actually be a third time because he did it, like he said before, at the end of OEW. He gave why he came back. So, not to be the dead horse, not to be disrespectful, but yeah.
I mean, going back to that OEW promo that you did with at the very last show, I mean, you hit that nail on the head because that's how OEW felt at times, especially the second version because I was a big part of it, especially behind the scenes. It was the land of misfit toys. It absolutely was the land of misfit toys. We had people there that either burned out in other feds or maybe even burned some bridges in other feds, and they came to us. I remember that promo you did, man. You were right on spot with that.
There was a lot of stuff that went into it, into why I felt that way. I don't know if it feels like I'm opening wounds or not, but I think a lot of the parties involved have moved on. But when we started OEW, for whatever reason, I couldn't tell you because I wasn't in the other camp. Steph Cameron, for some reason, had a fucking hard-on for hating us. I do not know to this day what I did to offend him, what anybody else did to offend him. Just apparently our mere existence caused him to, like, screw with us repeatedly. We had people poached off our roster. We were accused of stealing their IP. Just this massive list of stuff. And that was partly what painted my mentality towards the rest of the community, which was, hey, if I did something, come talk to me directly about it. If not, leave us the fuck alone.
Right.
And at that time, there was a very cliquish kind of thing. And okay, understand, when I talk about Seth and I talk about the VWE, I have always said that his drive to be the best is good, because it gets things done, but at the same time it's bad because it creates a very toxic environment. VWE always had the best looking product.
Yep.
Hands down. I think it may even still to this day.
Yeah, they do. They really have a great looking
The one show I went and watched, flawless. But it was an absolute just cesspool of just heinous shit. And a lot of people who were involved in it were not very generally pleasant to be around. Now, I'm sure they were pleasant to be around each other, but if you weren't inside that little special club, you got treated like shit. Right. And nobody was treated more like shit than the little misfits of OEW. At least to me, it felt like that.
I mean, it did feel like that, like with the, like they always say version 2, like when they brought it back, like it did feel like that a lot. Like we had like almost at times, I ain't gonna say all the time, but like at times we had like a us versus them attitude almost. You know what I mean? Because there was a lot of people like people trying to come to our shows, and they're in the middle of our shows trying to poach people. Like, hey, why don't you come over here and stuff like that? I mean, that happened a lot. As far as the tribalism of it all. But, I mean, I remember when you came out and did that promo again, I will say it again, I mean, you were dead on, because at times, in my experience with it, the second version of it, it did feel like that a lot. Like, wow, man, like we really... I remember, I don't know who... I think David Hawk Actor, we had a conversation. He's like, the OEW name's cursed. Like, he always said that. Like, the OEW name's cursed.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's... And we made it work, you know? Like, we made it work up until at the end, but, you know, yeah, what are you going to do?
Yeah, it is what it is. You live and learn. Now,
right,
a lot of that mentality that I have could just be my, like, hackles and perception, but I don't know. I've heard from others who were involved at the same time. There was a general sense that, for whatever reason, they were out to fucking just squash us. And I can't help but wonder if maybe it's because we just kind of sprung into existence. Nobody knew who the hell we were. Yeah. Like, quite literally. 3 guys that nobody knew in the community suddenly just started a promotion, and it was running, and nobody like had any say over it.
Right.
And I can't help but feel like maybe we freaked some people out. I know that Numbers was a little freaked out by us until he went and talked to me, and David and Lex, and then he was fine with it. Seth never made an attempt to talk to us, so I wonder if maybe that was the issue.
Imagine that, Seth not wanting to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Okay, so you part of the conversation, because I had to step away from the microphone, you know, during our little pre-show stuff. When I come back, and I'm kind of piecing together what you were saying, where you were talking about kind of like what we talked about with Boz last week. But you were mentioning something about titles don't mean anything. You know, because basically it's paradoxical. Okay, so my question is that. And I'm sure real life in SL, this right here is going to run parallel. Mm-hmm. When you run into those people that their sole purpose is to say, oh, I had this title, I won this, and I won this, instead of trying to work their way up and actually put in the work and put in good storylines and work from the bottom, what would be the best advice for you to give them to say, hey, you need to slow down, you need to look at the overall picture and quit looking at yourself? How would you present that to them, saying it's not always about the belts, it's about your character, it's about the Fed, it's about the show, it's not about you? How would you present that?
I would point to my own title lineage.
Okay.
I think I've carried OEW one time. Never carried a belt at UHW. Didn't carry any belts at Intense. Just maybe not. Maybe I carried one. It's two. It's hard for me to. I don't keep track of any titles that I've ever gotten. The only one I ever gave a shit about was the VWWA World Title because that was multi-fed recognized.
Oh, okay.
To me, that was the legit world title because it was recognized and you could. The theory was we could defend it in any promotion that was involved. So that's the only one I ever gave a fuck about. I think I've only ever really carried 4 belts, maybe 5. So I'm not. Yeah, I am not drenched in titles. I'm not.
Okay,
because
so
paradoxically, as I say, titles are the most important thing and the most utterly meaningless thing.
Okay, so do you agree with the train of thought that I have, even though sometimes it derails, that it's more important to put work into the storyline and do what's better for the show,
obviously,
as opposed to saying, oh, if I don't come in here and if I don't have a title with that at the end of the first season, I'm going to quit.
Seems to be a common issue.
That has happened, because that has happened quite a bit.
Yeah, wrestling is a industry of ego.
Okay.
You have to have an ego to do this because it is a business built on the idea of one person facing one person or 2 people working in team against 2 other people working in team. But essentially, it's one-on-one.
Okay.
So your ego is going to play into it. Mm-hmm. You have to be a bit of an egocentric to get out and cut proper promos. But at the end of the day, it's not about you. It's about the show. And no one person is greater than the show.
Yep. You seen a lot of that, like, over... I always said that about OEW, like, again, I'm going back to it, I don't want to keep opening wounds, but, like, to me, like, especially when I was part of, like, running to help and run the show, it was like, it's about the show, it's not about us. Like, we want to put on the best show we possibly can, not about going out there and saying, I want to be the belt. It's about the show. Like, don't put OEW in front of yourself. Or don't put yourself in front of OEW. But, again, you know, you have people that do that stuff, so.
Well, there's a thing that I've seen. It even happened recently over at Rise. For those of you who are not aware, I am many people. I am Legion.
We didn't want to spoil nothing. That's why we didn't bring it up.
Yeah, it's fine. People can figure it out.
Yeah.
At Rise, I'm also Tommy Connolly. If I can get the voice down here properly, there we go. Got to get the gravel into the voice. And we had a guy who was the IC champ when I got there who refused to drop the title. And my mentality is like, why? Somebody dropped it to you.
Yeah.
Are you going to indefinitely be a champion? You're going to have to drop it to somebody at some point. Again, it comes back to why titles are utterly meaningless.
Okay, I think we have one or two.
Perspective of the audience, it's the most important thing because that's the thing you're competing for.
Right.
Okay, I think we have 1 or 2 more questions. Z?
Yes, we absolutely do. Some more listener interaction here. Ryan has a question for Derrick. Is there anyone who...
12 inches by 36 centimeters.
Hey, I did not ask that question. This one's from Ryan. Yeah. Wait, never mind. Is there anyone who you would want to work with specifically, or someone specifically you do not want to work with?
Ooh.
The only guy that I have any kind of real heat with, I don't even think he's around anymore. So I don't think it matters. I'll work with anybody. Whatever. I don't care.
That's a good thing, though. It's a good thing, though. I mean, that you're willing to do that, because a lot of people, you know, would say, no, you have to work your way up to me. A lot of people wouldn't go in and say, hey, yeah, let me see what we could do. We could work with it. Kind of reminds me of the whole story with Ric Flair, you know, giving Sting his break by looking and saying, give me that kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in, especially in SL, and I'm sure this goes in like real life too. Is like, I think the people that you work with that like you don't get along with, sometimes they're the best stories because a lot of the promos and stuff are real. Like you're saying, you know what I mean? Like I think if they're willing to do stuff, like sometimes there's many people where I try to put together like, yeah, no, I'm not working with him. I hate him. But like I always look at that mentality of like, yo, man, let's use that hate and let's create something cool about it. You know?
Yeah. I mean, my one regret in SL Wrestling was that New Millennium couldn't, continue.
I remember when New Millennium. You know what? I totally forgot about that fit. I remember when New Millennium when they tried to start that.
Yeah, we were having a decent run there. We were like ran for almost a year without even having titles.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
The issue is, Joey actually booked it. I think I was like on a 6-month run where I didn't win a match.
Oh, wow.
And I never said anything. And he finally came and he said, "Wait, have I been having you lose every match for like the last half year?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like, why? I don't know. You tell me.
Right? Don't ask me the question. You gotta have the answer, right?
Why didn't you say anything? Because you're booking. It's not my job to decide what the booking is. You're the booker. I just work.
Yeah.
And then, but you also run the risk of going up to and say, "Hey, you know what? You've had me losing a lot. Can we at least throw something in and be like, I'm the booker. I'll decide." So you run that risk too.
Who gives a shit? People say it buries me. The only thing that buries you is a person's inability to work with what they're being given.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're losing, lose. Find a way to make the losing interesting. Guess what? You'll get over again.
That's very fair. That is very fair. Well, Derrick, we're going to have to cut this a little bit short, and this nothing against you. We may, if you want, we're going to bring you back on because I'm sure there's a lot more we could talk about. But in all honesty, Paul, everybody knows about his hearing issues that they have in real life, and he just sent a message in our staff group there that said that he was having some problems. So we do need to cut this short real quick. Paul, but before we do, you have an announcement to make.
Yeah, our next guest, our big announcement for our next guest. I mean, actually, Derrick talked about him earlier. It's going to be LG Lord Jeffrey will be our next guest. We're still working at the time, getting a confirmation. It's probably going to be actually probably tomorrow, sometime tomorrow, and it'll be released later on YouTube. But LG from Premier Wrestling is going to be our next guest at BK.
Absolutely. And also, don't forget, guys, that you can hit us. We got our Discord channel. You hit like, subscribe on our YouTube channel. You can get us on X. You can hit us by email. We've got all kinds of ways to get in touch with us. Once again, though, Derrick, we definitely want to thank you for being here. It has been a great, great honor to have you. And you do have it. And you do have an open invitation that anytime you want to come back, all you got to do is say so.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
All right, Paul, take us out.
Well, I'm going to say it again, BK. We're at what? I think last time I checked, 39, maybe 40 subscribers. We're almost there. 50 subscribers.
Are we?
I think so. Last time I checked, 50 subscribers. We're going to hit our 50 mark. We're going to have a giveaway that everyone's going to be involved with. So come on, if you're watching our video, we have 70% of our videos that are watching, nobody subscribe. If you can just subscribe, it helps us out. We get to that 50, we have a giveaway. And then even after that, we'll have more things going on. What else? You got anything, BK? You got anything, Z?
I tell you what, I got an idea for this giveaway at 50 listeners, okay?
It's going to be a date with me.
If a female wins, then Derrick gets to read bedtime stories to her.
Yeah, and they get Sarah Rouse.
No, there. Because I won't be able to join.
Gentlemen.
What?
You ladies want a bedtime story? Well, then that's easy to do.
Oh,
God.
Don't tease you like that, Derrick, right at the end of the show.
I am shameless, and I got vocal skills, and I will use them.
Oh, my God.
Oh, Lord.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Thanks once again from Fourth Wall. Thank you, Derrick Zane. We will see you all very, very soon.
It has been Derrick Zane's absolute pleasure to sit here and listen to you blow smoke up his ass.
Whoa, hold on. Let's end this. Say goodbye to everybody listening in the Christopher Walken voice. That's the only way we have to end it now.
Yeah.
All right. So, you've been, listening to the Fourth Wall with Paul and BK, this lady here named Z. Thank you. Should do it again sometime in the future. Bye.
All right, we'll see you next time. We'll see you next time. Check out our Discord server. Check out our YouTube. Check out Derrick on Overload Thursdays at 1 p.m. Check out me on Attitude 1 p.m. Mondays. Check out BK on Comms Wednesday, AVW at 4 p.m. SLT. And we'll see you next week.